Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective podcast. Today I have with me Harish Chandramowli, who is the head of AI at GoodDay Software. Harish, so I saw that you started off as a software engineer. Subsequently, you became a founder for two different companies. You also led at Bloomberg as a senior software engineer. And of course, now you are the head of AI at GoodDay Software. But Harish, tell me a little bit more from your perspective, your background, why you chose to go technical, and what led you to GoodDay Software.
I always like building, and that's how I
Mhm.
started as like software engineering. And I feel one place led to the other rather than me being like planning anything from the beginning. I'm like, hey, this is how my career needs to be. So starting on software worked out.
Mhm.
I did my master's in cybersecurity at Johns Hopkins.
Mhm.
And during that time, I still realized I don't want to be a consultant and I
Mhm.
want to join as a software engineer, which led me to join Bloomberg. And there I worked on security related, like building like a lot of authentications and like a lot of security
Mhm.
related things, but still like more as a software engineer. And
Mhm.
that kind of led me to MongoDB as they were looking for building out their security team for cloud. And they just launched like Atlas at the time. And the four
Mhm.
years was a wild journey. I'm grateful for everyone I worked at around. I learned a lot from everyone.
Yeah.
But during the process, I also saw how data is being used by different people. And
Mhm.
we did have a lot of like e-com consumer tech companies that were using MongoDB and they got a lot out of data. It, and Oracle being a biggest player in like an ERP space made me obviously curious to check that out. And that
Mhm.
kind of led me to start Fla. And Fla, when I sat and observed how merchants kind of behave, how brands operate, it
Mhm.
fundamentally felt like I always thought fashion as like a design and more creative process. But then when I actually like went to stores, worked with people, sat in the back office, I realized fashion and e-com is basically a data and workflow problem. And all the learnings I had
Interesting.
from MongoDB directly applied in that space. And that's how
Yeah.
Flash started. As we were building the company, obviously we did not make it to Series A. But
Mhm.
at the time, I met one of our competitors, GoodDay Software, and I was speaking to Kyle and Dave. Their vision on how this ERP space and the e-com backend tech space needs to evolve was more closer to what I wanted to do or how I see the
Mhm.
world. So it felt like the
Mhm.
right time for me to join, work with them, and build this product.
Excellent. So before we get to really what you're focusing on today, I'd love to understand what was the reason you chose to become technical first.
I just found building fun. I just found computer science fun. I don't
Yeah.
think I had like a rational choice. And especially where I grew up, all the computer science lab are hazy. We don't have air
Mhm.
conditioning at home. That also made it very interesting to go to computer science labs.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Well, so you started, of course, in your career getting the software engineering. I was really curious about that transition to making a decision to become a founder and affiliate, like you mentioned. What was the compelling reason for you to start the company? Because it's not only involving technical understanding, but also leadership in terms of direction, business. So what was the reasoning behind that?
I think for me, I found a problem, found it very interesting.
Hmm.
And at some point, I feel like as MongoDB team grew, company grew, which is all a good thing, you also feel that like your contribution is not going to be as big as it used to be.
Hmm.
And being close to the customers, when I saw the problem, I just wanted to solve it. There is no like
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I chased it or like I wanted to
Hmm.
be XYZ. It just like happened.
Yeah. So getting close to the customer, one of the major patterns I've identified with a lot of engineers, especially once you've done very, very well, is once there's a point in their career, maybe it's very early in college, maybe it's a little bit later, where they realize not only is technical understanding very important, but also how tangible can they make a business outcome with it. It's one of the more important components that's realized. At what point did you realize that?
So there are two parts to it. So while at Bloomberg, while before joining Bloomberg after Hopkins, me and my roommates launched a website in India. It went very well.
Hmm.
And we started contacting, there were like users. But unfortunately at the time, all of us had education loan. And one of the things I realized at the time is like, it's cool to say I'm a founder, you sacrifice, but you need to be privileged to be in that position. Coming from
Hmm.
India, we were not at the privilege, but touch wood, honestly, MongoDB helped me financially.
Hmm.
As well as we grow through the thing, I was able to get the financial independence. And that's when I saw the problem. I'm like, now I have the financial independence to try something. And like,
Hmm.
why not give it a shot?
Certainly. So let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing at Good Day Software and really your perspectives on AI, as I think that's going to be a really relevant conversation. So there's, again, as you know, we discussed before this podcast started, lots of hype around AI, lots of, let's just say, interest around it. Now, what I think is that there is not enough talk about maximizing impact versus just the overall usage of it. So what are your perspectives in regards to that in terms of maximizing impact versus utilizing AI due to the fact that it's trending?
There are two parts, and it's true for most companies and most organization, technical and non-technical. Everyone is at different stages on how people use AI, how everything is getting consumed. And especially we are working with non-computer science customers as in like brands who are very creative, and AI kind of really helps creative people and run business, but they are not software engineers. There are different ways I think it is helping. One, for people who are already like very tech forward and have been using cloud, they feel more empowered. Like if you're running a brand, now you need to do something, you don't have to ping a software engineer. You could actually like try to build some basic websites yourself, basic operational automation yourself. That is being like very, I'm happy to see that. Like the power is in their hands now, and we just need to enable it. And there are people for whom it's all overwhelming, like you said. And in
Hmm.
those cases, we want to partner with them and helping them go through the journey. So I've been seeing
Hmm.
two parts where it's there are people for whom it just feels like liberating, and there
Hmm.
are people for whom it's like very overwhelming. And
Hmm.
to the AI shiny part, more than as a consumer, as a vendor who is trying to help people on board with MCP, I am seeing the difference, right? I
Hmm.
don't want to just release MCP and like, hey, good day has MCP, which is true. We have MCP. You could go and play around with it. But are you using it every day? Are you building skills
Hmm.
that's actually helpful for you to use it every day? That has been the challenge. So at least the way I have been approaching is rather than releasing these AI toolings, literally grabbing time with every one of my customers and
Hmm.
understanding their day-to-day life, what are the mundane tasks they do, and
Hmm.
helping them through building the skills, helping them what have to how to make these MCP work for them. And in
Hmm.
general, that has been the principle at Good Day where we want to be partner, we want to be the people who help brands in their AA journey. So yeah, to your question on the other side, I most of the thing I talk so about more on the other side because I feel as a software engineer, it was very easy for me to consume AI, use AI effectively, but it's about
Right.
how to get it to masses.
Yes. So even for these non-technical companies that are not acquainted with AI or have the technical understanding of what it's capable of, from your perspective, what's critical here is to really understand what are their workflows, what are they doing on a day-to-day basis, what's actually valuable what are valuable tasks, and then reverse engineer how AI can be applied to those specific tasks. So for non-technical, for a company that's focused on fashion or branding, where do you see AI being the most valuable? Because as you do know, with these creative companies, one of the limitations we can see with AI is that it has limitations in terms of creativity.
So first, I feel a lot of task goes into like getting a purchase order, reformatting it, and
Mhm.
those like every company has some custom things they do in terms of inventory planning, the way they manage things. It all used to be super hard to customize and work with what you need. And at least with AI, what I feel is like if you want to take a purchase order, reformat and split it into multiple purchase orders, you don't need an Excel sheet. You can just let Claude be like, hey, grab this from Good Day, make it into a split shipment, which gets shipped in like multiple. Just to give the industry context, is more like you write a purchase order. More often than not, it comes in like 4 or 5 different shipments. Now you
Mhm.
know you are buying 10 t-shirts, but you also need to split that into like 10 t-shirts of 10 blocks each
Mhm.
to create 10 different shipments, right? And all those AI can now easily do that rather than a human who used to be in Excel, be able to update those numbers in Excel
Mhm.
could easily be achieved through. Claude and various ways of working. Another smaller things which I feel is like it's how do you start your week? How do you start your day? You want to know
Mhm.
what are the incoming SKUs like t-shirts and pants to your store. And now it can be a proactive update that you see in Slack rather than like going to your ERP, going to your Shopify. And if you have missed some deadlines, some shipments, it's all can be now like automated alerts. And you are not at the mercy of a SaaS platform.
Unpredictability. Yeah.
Yes. Rather, you are at the mercy of how do you make your customize your cloud based on the data that is being exposed by these SaaS platforms.
Excellent. Excellent. And in order to actually understand how these can be maximized with AI, you also have to understand what are the limitations. So, from your perspective, especially with this group of companies which are non-technical, where are the limitations, and how does that impact how you apply AI?
So let me just talk through like how AI is being consumed, right? Like right now, when I work with people, they would be like, "Hey, give me my inventory report, and let me use that inventory report to build XYZ." But
Hmm.
that's a different way of thinking. Whereas rather let the cloud figure out what you need to do, right? You don't need to get the entire inventory to understand what is running low. Rather, you should
Hmm.
use the MCP tools and be like, "Give me the inventories that is running low." Then cloud might actually make it more efficient, be able to pull the right things. Whereas if you're trying to download this entire report from different things, it just doesn't work. So in
Yeah.
terms of like friction and what AI can do and can't do is just more around like trying different things.
Hmm.
Because you might try it in XYZ way and it could not work. But if
Hmm.
you ask the same goal in a different way, it might just work. So it's
Hmm.
like start with goals and don't start with steps. And a
Interesting.
lot of those are like human thinking difference.
Yeah. And what about in terms of limitations on doing certain tasks properly? Are there certain tasks you think, or a genre of tasks that are not be able to be executed by AI properly?
I think that's true. Hallucination is a big thing. So
Yeah.
I have been advising everyone is more like, hey, if you want to create a purchase order, let use MCP, create a draft purchase order so that there is a human eyeballs.
Hmm.
Even when I code, I feel like I am letting AI code for an hour, day to 2 days,
Hmm.
but I would still like eyeball it, review it, understand where it might have gone wrong before
Hmm.
merging my code.
It
So
sells
some of
bugs.
yes, so some of them is more like understanding that this still needs a little bit of eyeballing
Hmm.
and also understanding that if AI hallucinates, make mistakes, you don't care. Like
This
there are
this is
certain things as I don't care. If it makes a mistake, it makes a mistake, and
yeah.
it doesn't impact.
Well,
Mm.
this is the reason why I think, well, in terms of hallucinations, why it can't be fully automated in industries like AI, in like healthcare and finance, because one singular hallucination, it's going to be extremely costly to a company. So a bug with a fashion company is a lot less impactful than a healthcare company or a financial company. So where do you see the future in terms of agentic AI, in terms of its capability and what it can start being able to do and doing it accurately?
So two parts. One thing is more like even in fashion company, if your inventories are hallucinated, the numbers and the way your financial metrics have been computed, then you are out of business very soon because fashion is a
Mhm.
very margin
Right,
low
right. That's
business.
true. That's true.
But when I say I don't care, it's more like if I'm creating an alert and if the alert doesn't get executed in the right way, and I know I will look at the dashboards at least like 2 days later, and
Hmm.
I would immediately still course correct myself. So I don't want to spend too much time on figuring out and testing alerts.
That's a very good
Uh,
distinguish. I'm glad you distinguished that because again, the financial metrics would be a massive problem, and I think I do remember. I think fashion is definitely marginal dependent type of company. So yeah, please go ahead.
so I forgot the next question.
Yeah, so I was asking about where do you think AI is going to be going in terms of its capability and in terms of its ability to execute tasks properly? Because as of now, again, there's bugs. Agentic AI can hallucinate. Where do you see it going and its capability in specifically fashion too?
I think it's more about building harness, and it's not like a secret. Like that's why everyone is talking about harness. Where to
Hmm.
have the human in the loop versus where to just let it automate. And that would
Hmm.
be more vertical specific. That might be more task specific. And I do believe as you have more and more harness, to an extent, you might be able to automate a lot of tasks.
Hmm.
Example for me is coding, right? The more clear spec I write, the better the outputs it's to an extent where my eyeballing time is very less, just like
Hmm.
implement and release.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and shift this conversation to a little bit more about you on the personal side, Harish. And the first question I have for you is, what is something about your life that you wish more people knew about?
I don't know. I feel like
It's a difficult question.
typically I'm the one looking up to people and learning from people around me.
Hmm.
What people might want to know about me, honestly, I don't think I've done much
Or
to
what would you
highlight.
want them to know about you? It could be a very
Yeah,
difficult struggle. It could be anything you wanted
it's
to be.
it's actually the thing is more like I am not very comfortable being in these type of podcasts, being the face of the
Wow.
company. And I feel I had to do that and got into this because I was running a company and these things
Wow.
are like some stuff that you need to do and less of like I want to do.
Yeah. How did you navigate that? Because in life, there's always going to be situations where you're going to do what's required to get to the goal you want to get to. And then the situation is that it's going to be uncomfortable becoming a different person to do that. So how do you navigate that situation, becoming someone you need to become, even though it's uncomfortable?
What you want the most, right? I wanted the company to succeed more than anything else.
It's your
So
why.
it will,
Yeah.
yes. So it will force you to come out of your comfort zone.
This is actually the topic of my TED talk as well, is finding your why. I think knowing why you want to do something, it will allow you to have a reason as to why you're willing to sacrifice and go through an uncomfortable situation to get the outcome you want. Because that outcome is something that's meaningful to you. So I think that's a very good point that you made there. And you're saying something?
No, that's pretty much it. That's exactly
Okay,
what I was
excellent.
saying. It's more around there
Yeah,
is something
perfect.
bigger that you want that you are willing to change.
I agree, completely agree. And that was actually the basis of my own 70-pound weight loss as well. But before we get to that, in fact, I would like to ask you one last question. And that is, what do you think the biggest differences between you when you were in your 20s and you now?
Personally, financial freedom.
Okay.
I feel
Okay.
in 20s there was a lot of like I said, how do I repay my loans? What would I do? Having stable job for few years helps you relieve that financial
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So what I'll do now is go ahead and share a very concise perspective regarding health and fitness. We'll go ahead and conclude the podcast with Harish's plans for this year, personally or professionally. The main perspective I want to provide today is really about how to make it time efficient. As you know, Harish, a lot of my viewers are entrepreneurs and executives and other technical people. So the idea is you want to shift away from a location dependent approach. What I mean by that is one that's fixed in one location, like a gym or a studio, because the days that you're traveling, the days you're stuck at the house the whole day, are the days that you're going to be costing yourself progress if your plan is mostly location dependent. So instead of doing a location dependent plan, I would focus on something that's location independent, something you can do anytime and anywhere as opposed to one fixed location. Because if you have that in place, no matter what you're doing in terms of day-to-day schedule, in terms of traveling, you can actually attend to the requirements of doing what's required to do on a consistent basis and actually get that goal at the end of the journey essentially. And what I would specifically recommend, and I always keep talking about this, is leveraging something like step count, because step count is literally something you can do while you're watching this podcast. You can do this while you're traveling and anywhere there's ground underneath you in life, which I'm assuming is 99% of the time. You can leverage this pathway to actually get that goal of losing the weight you need to lose. And this is actually what I personally use to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off. So hopefully it gives a different perspective to what is traditionally being told, and hopefully one that's viable today. So what we'll do now is go ahead and conclude the fitness conversation and move on to Harish's plans for this year, whether that be professionally or personally.
I never have plans. I typically it's more like just take it one step at a time.
Okay, excellent.
Just
Well,
see what is next.
where can people learn more about you? Is LinkedIn the best place to learn about you?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me, Harish. It was a pleasure to have you on. This is Aryan Mohindra and Harish Chandramowli.